Hey everyone, welcome. We're diving into a really crucial topic for your CMA exams, something you've got to know inside and out. Cost Accounting Standards, or CAS for short.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the problem that led to CAS in the first place. Then we'll see how CAS provides the solution, what it's for, and take a peek at the first standard. We'll also clear up a common confusion point and then wrap up with the key things you need to nail for your exam. Let's get to it.
All right, first things first. To really get why these standards are so important, we have to go back in time a little bit. Before CAS came along, the world of cost accounting, well, it was kind of like the Wild West, a real mess. So think about this for a second. How is it possible for two companies in the same industry making the exact same product to come up with wildly different costs? I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But it's not a trick question. This was the reality. Imagine Company A and Company B both make identical wooden chairs. Company A decides to include, say, the factory's electricity bill as part of the chair's cost. But Company B, they leave it out. So whose cost is right? Without a set of rules, you can't say. And that's where all the confusion starts. You see, without that common rulebook, it was total chaos. It meant you had accountants with different ideas about what should even be in a cost. The numbers were all over the place, full of estimates. You couldn't compare your cost to your competitors. It was literally apples and oranges. And for management, how are you supposed to make good decisions when you can't trust the numbers? Plus, you had this constant headache of trying to reconcile your financial books with your cost books. It was just a nightmare. So something had to be done, right, to clean up this mess. And that's where our hero of the story comes in, the cost accounting standards. This was the big idea to bring some much-needed order to all that chaos. So what are cost accounting standards, really? Well, put simply, they're the rule book, a standardized set of principles and procedures for how you classify, measure, and assign costs. The whole point is to get everyone on the same page, speaking the same language. And in India, the body that issues these official guidelines is the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, or ICMAI. And the team behind the curtain, the ones actually creating these standards, that's the Cost Accounting Standards Board, the CASB. They're the ones who develop and issue the standards. But they do more than that. They also put out things like guidance notes and this really important document called GCAP. Now, what's GCAP? Think of it like the Constitution, or the preface that sets the stage for all the individual cost accounting standards that follow. It's the big picture philosophy. Okay, so we know who makes them. Now let's talk about the why and the where. What are these standards actually trying to achieve, and when do you have to use them? If you look at these core objectives, you'll see they are a direct answer to the problems we talked about earlier. Remember the chaos? Well, CAS brings consistency. Remember the apples and oranges problem? CAS brings comparability, which is huge for benchmarking. And that lack of trustworthy data for decision-making, CAS aims for transparency and accuracy. It's basically a point-by-point takedown of the old, messy way of doing things. So when do you actually have to apply these standards? The rule of thumb is this. If you're putting together a formal cost statement, something that needs to be classified, presented, and disclosed properly, you've got to follow CAS. This is especially true if that statement needs to be attested or certified. In those cases, it's non-negotiable. It's what gives the report its credibility. All right, to really bring this home and make it less abstract, let's zoom in on the very first standard, CAS1. This one is the foundation of everything. It's all about how we classify costs. And trust me, if you get this part right, the rest becomes so much easier. The main principle of CAS1 is simple. You have to group costs based on their common characteristics. It's just like organizing your closet, right? You put all the shirts together, all the pants together. Why? So you can easily find what you need and decide what to wear. CAS1 does the exact same thing for costs. It creates logical groups so that management can look at the data and make smart decisions without getting lost in the details. And this is where it gets really powerful. CAS1 gives you 5 different ways to slice and dice your costs. It's like having 5 different pairs of glasses. You can classify costs by their basic nature. Is it a raw material or an employee cost? Or you can look at them by traceability. Is it a direct cost we can pin to one product or an indirect overhead? You can sort them by function, like production versus sales. Or, and this is a big one, by behavior. Is it fixed or does it vary with output? Each of these classifications gives management a totally different, super useful perspective for analysis. Okay, let's pause here for a second and tackle something that trips up a lot of students on the exam. And that's the difference between Cost Accounting Standards, CAS, and the General Accounting Standards, or AS. They sound similar, but they are not the same thing. Let's make this super clear. Here is the absolute simplest way to think about it. Cost accounting standards are for looking inward. They're for internal managers to understand and control costs, to make better decisions about products, processes, and efficiency. The audience is inside the company. Now, accounting standards, they're for looking outward. They're for telling external stakeholders, like investors, banks, the government, how the company is doing financially. Think profit and loss, balance sheet. So, CAS is internal and detailed. AS is external and summarized. Inward versus outward. Got it?
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's boil it all down to what you absolutely need to remember for your exam. This is the stuff you want to have locked in.
So why does all this matter? Well, the benefits are huge, and they touch everyone. For the industry as a whole, it means better cost control and a level playing field. For managers inside the company, it means reliable data for smart planning and performance reviews. And for the government, it provides the transparency it needs, especially when cost audits are required. It really creates a win-win-win situation.
Now for the buzzwords. These are your exam keywords. You have to know these. Things like consistency, comparability, transparency. Those are the goals of CAS. You need to know GAAP. And then these two, cost object and cost center. A cost object is the what you're trying to find the cost of, like a product or a service. A cost center is the where, a department or a location where you're collecting costs. And of course, the CASB, the board that makes the rules. Seriously, make flashcards for these. They are gold for theory questions.
And this quote really sums it all up, doesn't it? The whole point of costing is to figure out costs, control them, and get more efficient. And the cost accounting standards? They are the roadmap, the actual framework that allows companies to do this in a structured and uniform way. They take that goal from just being a nice idea to being a reality. So I want to leave you with this one final thought. Cost accounting standards are about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. They standardize the language of business efficiency. And think about what happens when everyone in an industry, from managers to analysts to regulators, starts speaking the same language fluently. It leads to smarter conversations, better decisions, and ultimately, a stronger, more efficient economy for everyone. That's the real power here.